Hi everyone, Scott here from year 13, and I have Joel Pearson here with me on behalf of the National Careers Institute. And before we get straight into it, I want to acknowledge the First Nations people from across Australia that continue their beautiful and rich culture and continue to share that across Australia, and also extend that acknowledgement to elders past and present, and to all deadly young Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander leaders coming through today. And without further ado, I'd like to say that we might start and just share that the NCIE, the National Careers Institute, was established to ensure people have access to authoritative and accurate careers information and support, irrespective of their age or career stage. And our deadly Joel here is a circus artist and systems analyst at Euphorium. And I would like to, without further ado, welcome Joel. How are you?
Good. How are you going, Scott?
I am very good, thanks. And thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I'd like to start actually and get stuck in by asking if you can tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, what was your journey like after school? How did you get to where you are today?
So it all probably started when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I moved to WA to Geraldton, and I started doing circus at a real young age, and I fell in love with it immediately, obviously. And so I'd been doing it for several years now, and I got to around 15 or 16, and I decided it was something that I wanted to take a bit more seriously, and maybe pursue as a career. So I started doing like gigs and like getting out at events and really sharing what it is that I do. And I met the crew at Euphorium, which are basically a social enterprise based here in Geraldton. And they were like, well, you know, you're doing all this circus stuff and you're trying to like look for a career in this industry. Why don't you just come work with us?
Yeah.
And so I went to school the next day and I said, how do I do workplace learning?
Yeah.
and they helped me out. And so I did workplace learning for about a year with them. And then I started a school-based traineeship, which was a Cert 3 in arts administration. So I was going to school 4 days a week. And then 1 day a week, I was getting into the workplace, actually like having an impact in my community, and getting to real hands-on experience and a qualification in something that several years ago I didn't even know I wanted to do.
Yeah, no, of course.
From there, it basically I finished my traineeship and they put me on just as part-time, and so I spend a few days a week working for them. And I get to do all sorts of cool things. So like as a systems analyst, basically my job is to just like make sure that everything runs smoothly and efficiently all the time, which is actually a really big problem. There's lots of different regional arts organizations, and they're all like, you know, stuck in the old way of doing things because, you know, we used to print off forms and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And so I basically come in and help streamline things, which means that we get to save time and money and all of the resources that these organizations have, because often they're pretty limited.
Yes.
And rather than chewing it up in administration, it goes back into like actually doing arts projects and having an impact in the community, which is something that, you know, is that I want to see and something that I believe is really important. So I basically enable them to do that.
Okay. Oh, that's brilliant. And, you know, often coming outside of school, a lot of young people today struggle with that, you know, where is my life going to go? And I understand that you came to the Year 13 Expo last year. Can you touch on if the Expo helped you determine what to do next, or even, you know, kind of spark a light of thought as to what you wanted to do or where you wanted to go?
Yeah, the expo last year was really good, actually. I was kind of in this in-between zone where I was finishing my traineeship and I wasn't sure what the next step was. And I came to the expo and I got to see basically all these people, especially people in the creative industries that actually like were out there doing stuff and like had a job out of it, and they weren't like, struggling to make ends meet, and it was something that they really loved, and it kind of gave me that bit of hope to continue doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And to just push forward and like take that next step into like, what's it going to be like coming out of school and then having a career in this field
Yes.
where like typically people like, there's no money in it, you can't make a career out of that. That's just silly. And so actually, getting to see other people do it, it gave me that hope, I reckon.
Definitely. I think, a lot of young people listening in today, are struggling with how do you compromise those things that you love for like, a weekly wage and those kind of things, and how you balance it. And it's so important to hear stories like yourself, Joel, that are finding ways to balance that as well. And because I heard that you were a recipient of the WA School-Based Apprentice of the Year Award, which is absolutely a big achievement, and congratulate you. What I'd like to ask, if you could tell us a little bit about that award and what you did to receive it.
So basically, the WA Training Awards aim to recognize like consistently like high achievers and people that they want to profile and use as case studies to help inspire people in the future.
Oh, brilliant.
And so I was one of not many people who have ever done a Cert 3 in Arts Administration as a school-based traineeship.
Yeah.
So I was a very small case, like, and something that they want to have more of, given that we have museums and libraries and art galleries scattered all throughout the country. Yeah. And so, it was a combination of like, obviously the hard work that I'd put in, and also them wanting to choose someone to hopefully inspire a whole range of more people.
Yes.
And so my TAFE were like, here, you better nominate for this award. And they pushed me to do it. And I'm glad I did, because I met a whole range of people, and basically it's given me a platform to hopefully inspire more people to do something that they really enjoy and something that they're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can hear it in terms of that passion just coming through with your voice and your story. And speaking of awards, you're also the winner of the 2021 Youth Futures Innovation for a Sustainable Future Award. So that was that was a mouthful. Could you, what does this involve?
So that award came by because of all the work I've been doing. Basically, it all revolves around community organizations, and often they're like understaffed, under-resourced. They have issues, like typically if they're made up of a group of older people, they might have issues like keeping up with technology and stuff like that. And so in the last probably 4 to 6 months, I've been working with some of the people in my team at Euphorium, and we've been designing a system which is called Successionly. Okay. And it's a business process management tool, which basically means it takes all the knowledge out of people's heads and it puts it in a big tool for everyone to use. So it doesn't matter who you have come along or who you have potentially leave the organization, say they retire or anything else happens, nothing is lost. And that organization can continue doing what it's doing and having that community impact without suffering.
Yeah.
And so we've been designing that and prototyping that for a little while now. And so my boss nominated me for that because, all these organizations have those same issues. And we kind of want to like get this tool out there and really hope that we can help others and have, see our communities get better, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. And that sounds absolutely awesome. And I'm sure that in the future we'll support a lot of, especially young people coming through into these industries and into the workforce. And one of the biggest things, I think, as we touched on before, in terms of that passion for circus, I wanted to hear about, not only are you working within the workforce and establishing and doing some great things, you're also balancing being a circus artist. Could you tell us about that and how you're doing that?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky that we have a circus studio here in Geraldton.
Oh, brilliant.
Which is just by chance run by this amazing person called Dan Power, who, he's worked at Cirque du Soleil and the National Institute of Circus Arts and all these amazing places, and he's come back to his hometown, Geraldton. And yeah, so I've worked alongside him for about 6 years now.
Okay.
And I teach circus as well to a bunch of little kids. There's a whole group of small classes, as well as, yeah, I get to go to things like the WA Circus Festival and have a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's really great to be able to do this thing that kind of complements my career as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's given me some really great skill sets. Like for example, public speaking and confidence have been a massive thing that I've gained from performing as a circus artist. And they're things that typically before, I had, but I wasn't as proficient in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that was one of the questions that I was hoping to ask you, was about those transferable skills, from the industry or working within that creative field, and then going into the workforce and how that has helped you. But definitely, you stated that confidence, it helped you with your confidence. And what was the other skill you said?
Confidence, and I can't remember now either.
Public speaking.
Oh, yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And those kind of things, a lot of people don't realize it goes a long way, especially going to workforce and having that confidence to public speak, and also that communication is a big part of that. And, a lot of those skills as well may have come from, vet courses and those courses that you spoke about while in school, balancing that. And I would like to ask if you could share some of the benefits of doing a vet in school, or vocational education and training in school programs.
Honestly, I think to this day, it's probably one of the best decisions I've made.
Yeah.
It's especially doing it as a traineeship. I got to actually go out and experience what the work environment was like. But I also got to speak with my lecturers who were industry professionals, and I got this formal background of knowledge to basically support what I was doing in real life as well.
Yes.
And it was really good to get both sides of that. Not only was I getting that experience, I was getting someone who'd been in the industry for a long time, passing on all this knowledge and teaching me, basically the ropes of everything, and giving me something to fall back on when I was unsure about how I should go about doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having that support system there, and with vocational education and training, with industry leaders and people actually on the ground that have worked in these industries, sharing that knowledge is absolutely so important. You get that insight, which is, just to see, if this is something that you want to do, and balancing that, I feel all of you have shared now is been absolutely crucial in terms of valuable to young people to hear. And one of the biggest things as well, because not only are you doing a vocational education and training, being a circus artist, but you're also being just you're a human being. And so I wanted to ask, what was your life like in school? How was high school for you?
It was a little bit hectic.
Yeah.
I luckily chose to do at the start of year 11, I chose to do general because I really wanted to focus on circus.
Yes.
And so luckily, because I'd chosen that general pathway, it meant that stuff like homework and dedicating time outside of school to doing schoolwork was reduced for me. But it definitely was still hectic. I went away for work a few times. We run a festival in Perth, and so I took some time off from school to do that, as well as I went to a conference in Adelaide and stuff like that. And so I definitely had to work really hard to basically make sure I got it all done, but it was so worth it. And I wouldn't go back and change it.
Yeah, no, of course. And thank you for sharing that. And because another part of school is, I think, is this really pressured understanding of subject selection, and I just wanted to kind of talk to you about the contextualization of those subjects, in schools, and how important they are, but in terms of aligning that to your passions. And I wanted to ask, was there any subjects in school that inspired you, or any subjects that really hit the mark in terms of this is something that has inspired me to want to go down this pathway?
So in year 11, I was doing general human biology just for the fun of it. It was like, I'm just a little bit interested in it. And then in year 12, I changed that to do visual art instead.
Yeah.
And it was something which I thought was just a small decision.
Yeah.
But going into year 12, it was really, really great. I found it personally great because it gave me around an hour every day where I got to actually kind of like sit down, relax, make some really cool art, but also just like be in myself a little bit.
Yeah,
because often I was so busy doing so many other things. And so having that dedicated time every day to just like, do some painting or make some like clay pots or anything like that. I look back on it now and I'm like, that was a great decision. And I didn't realize it at the time. But looking back on it, I was like, I'm so glad that I chose to choose something which was like fun and a little bit relaxing. And I'd probably even say the same I chose to do sport as well. And it was just good to make sure that like I kept up exercise and like stayed fit, because we all know how important that is for you, not only physically, but like especially mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think at that point, coming, from that school culture, what were your like friends doing? Like, like often young people get caught up with, the peer pressure of, doing things that their friends are doing. But what was your friends doing at the time?
A lot of my friends were doing, they were doing HR, and they were applying to unis and getting early offers. And I actually, honestly, I still don't 100% understand how that system works.
Yeah.
But I do know it was difficult for quite a few of them.
Yeah.
They like with such a workload. And then also they were like trying to manage like doing a uni application. Like you have to like write some essays and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it was, I think for some of my friends, it was stressful, but also I'm glad that I was in kind of a position where, because I was like inside of school, I was doing the more like relaxed pathway. I could actually be there for them a little bit and support them and just kind of just talk to them and make sure they're doing all right.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's a great answer. And, often we see our friends going through a lot of stuff, and to be able to be there to support them is absolutely deadly. So thanks for sharing that. Within all of you, what you've said has been this, cutting through the core is this whole understanding of passion. And I wanted to ask, how important is that, like in terms of when you found your passion, how passion has allowed you to actually find these pathways and to do vetting, all these different courses and make those decisions. A lot of young people struggle with that. When did you find your passion, and how did that help you?
I think I was really lucky when I found circus at such a young age. I think that was the start of it all. That was like that little spark right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think I would definitely say that's where it all started from.
Yeah.
And then when I had that spark, I just chased it and I followed it. And I think finding your passion and finding what you like really makes you happy inside is something that young people definitely struggle with. Absolutely. I know at times even I've reconsidered, what am I doing and where am I going, even though I'm so like passionate about everything that I do. Yeah. But I think I've tried lots of different things along the way. Yeah. Like I spent a little bit of time at TAFE, like doing it was a Cert 4 in nursing, and yeah. I've tried a bunch of different things and they didn't all work out.
Okay.
But I think it was like just trying everything, like along the way and seeing, is this for me? Because you don't know until you get in there and you start to try and do it.
Yeah. No, definitely. There has been this huge destigmatization of, of what that pathway looks like, and that you choosing one area, that doesn't mean you're going to be in that industry your entire life. You know, you have this choice to jump and dip your toe in, which is absolutely bleeding through what you're saying right now. And that is so valuable for young people to hear. And one of those things I feel in terms of the industries you've been in, I wanted to ask, like, where to next? Like, what is next for you? You know, are you going to stay within the industry and all the work that you're doing now and bring with that all your circus endeavors? Where to next?
Next is a very good question. I don't have a perfect plan yet.
Yeah.
As I'm sure a lot of young people don't.
Yeah.
But, I think I'm going to stay where I am for a little while. I really enjoy working in a regional area. Like not being in the city is actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really enjoy working. And because not only do I work in Geraldton, I get to travel to like all these different places in WA for work, like Ravensthorpe and Narrogin and all these small regional areas where like every time you do something, it has an impact on that community. And like,
absolutely,
that to me is something that, yeah, like is really important, and being able to have that positive impact and maybe inspire just a little bit of change.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, I think I'm happy to sit for a little while, you know, working in like regional, and then, yeah, I'll see what happens. I'll see what doors open.
Yeah. That's it. And the universe, you know, happens and is flowing, and, you know, who knows what tomorrow might bring. And in saying that, I just wanted to ask you, you know, there's young people listening in on us today. And I wanted to share if there was someone out there that was wanting or passionate about circus or passionate about this industry that you're currently in, what kind of advice in terms of, you know, getting into that or pathway, or where would you direct them to, you know, get involved?
That's a really good, it's a very good question. It's such a, like, what we define as like the creative industries is so diverse that there are probably like a billion different ways that you could get into it. Like, a piece of general advice I would give is just go and try things.
Yeah.
And it would be to like, yeah, like actually physically, you know, like if you want to do theater, is there like an amateur theater group in your town? Is there a circus school in your town? Which you might be surprised, there are a lot of circus schools in Australia.
Yeah.
If you want to do singing, like, is there someone, you know, that is a musician that you could maybe speak to? Because I can almost guarantee everyone has someone in their life that they will know that's attached to what it is that they'd like to follow, and just go and speak to them and talk to them and see what chances can I take and what can I try and do. And then on the flip side of that, though, I would also say, don't be afraid to change what you're doing, because if you try something and you thought that you might love it, but you find out it's not for you, that's okay. Like, it's okay to, so if you're going to TAFE, for example, it's okay to drop out of the course if you find out it's not for you, if you realize this is not for me, because there's no point continuing to do something and potentially like spending money to do it and using up your time, which you only have so much of, just to not go anywhere with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, like, try new things, but don't be afraid to change what you're doing if it's not working.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. And I hope, everyone listening there, you heard it from Joel, you know, that don't be afraid to, you know, to change that pathway. There's so much options out there right now, but also the options through year 13, as we have been sharing, is about linking those options to what you're passionate about, and or finding ways to balance that passion, which we've heard from you, Joel. And speaking of advice, I was actually going to ask you, because that's more broadly open to everyone, you know, who's listening. But I wanted to ask you, if you were to tell your 18-year-old self or your high school self some advice, what would that advice, if we were to Zoom them in right now and they're on Zoom with us, what would you tell your high school self?
I would tell my high school self to not procrastinate as much and jump on opportunities earlier.
Yeah.
I definitely I spent a lot of time thinking about things.
Yeah.
And that time could have been used doing rather than just thinking about them. So I would tell my past self, yeah, make sure you when you have that opportunity, jump on it while you can, because it might not stay there. Someone else might take it, or the opportunity might not exist anymore, or.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it while it's there. And yeah, a lot of times, people if they aim high, like there's old saying of, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll still land upon the stars. And so it's just getting out there and making that decision and just dipping a toe in and giving it a go. And who knows where that leads you, right?
Yeah, well, every opportunity you take, you're going to meet new people in new areas and basically expand your network. So it's, even if you don't end up where you thought it might take you, you might end up somewhere better.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of somewhere in the near future, is actually our the expo. And I wanted to ask, there's a lot of young people coming in, hearing today, and being a part of our 3-day expo during Careers Week. I wanted to hear just to touch on how, just by participating in this expo, that has helped you in school, or like in post-schooling, or even just in your decisions that you've been making over the past year since the expo.
I think it's really like, when I went last year to the expo, I think it really opened my eyes to how many different areas that there were that people could be in. And that, you can also be passionate about your job and really love what you're doing. Like, you don't have to work behind a cash register for the rest of your life. I think, that was really a big one for me. It's just like opening my eyes and seeing all these different people doing amazing things and really loving it and following their passions. And so, it made me feel like it was something definitely possible.
Yeah.
And just reinforce all those decisions I made, where I might not have always made the decision that has led to, having the most income, but I've also made decisions where I get to go home every day and love what I'm doing and be genuinely happy and fulfilled. So.
Yeah. No, that's a good, absolutely beautiful segue. And I just wanted to, before we finish, is there any last, words of advice that you would give our audience today?
Try as many things as you can and jump on as many opportunities as you can. But it would be at the same time, don't be afraid to change what you're doing if it's not working.
Yeah.
Like, if that was the one thing that people take away from this, it should be just that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, definitely. And thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure all the mob and people from across Australia listening to us today would have taken a lot. And your lived experience is so valued. And so thank you for that, Joel, for telling your post-schooling journey. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I'd also like to thank NCI for providing this opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today and just going on that journey and absorbing all of that lived experience that I'm so happy and proud to be able to share with you to the world. And so thank you so much, Joel.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.